everybody. Welcome to the SurlyPodcast #1 with your hosts. I'm a Mac and Black Lab.
Hey, I'm a Mac. How's it going?
Oh, it's been a fucking Monday.
How's
it going with you?
Good. Exciting day. Exciting podcast. I'm excited.
It is better late than never. They always have said that. It turns out that it is true, especially when it comes to podcasts.
But I'd like to point out it's mostly your fault because I was ready last night and you never pinged me. So
yeah, it was my fault. Fucking dinner parties. My wife did not know about the podcast, but I'm sure she's going to make fun of me when she finds out.
Yeah. Well, okay. So everybody knows I'm a Mac's fault, not Black Lab's fault for the delay. So today we're going to talk about a bunch of different things: UT football, Urban Meyer,
and how he's a fuckface.
Some of our favorite threads, some funny stories from the past, and surprisingly, it's not Black Lab with the dog barking. It's actually I'm a Mac. Well, now my dog's barking. Your dog. And then we're going to have a raffle for tickets.
And then we're going to see how we feel about the rest of the night. So, once our dogs get their shit together and stop barking at each other through the computers,
yes.
We'll go ahead and get started. Some pretty big news for the UT football team, I hear, Mr. Black Lab.
Yeah.
What is that?
Sam Ellinger announced the starter today. So as somebody whose kids are going to go to Westlake, who worship the ground Sam walks on, and have multiple pictures with him from his time at Westlake, very happy time in our house. So the only thing I'm kind of worried about is, does this cause Buechele to transfer? Announcing it this early, definitely attrition candidate. Does this affect him in any way? And that's the only thing I'm worried about, them announcing it.
But do you think he's really worried about that? Because he does play a pretty physical game, and that we have seen a few, or more than a few, UT quarterbacks kind of not last the entire season.
Well, that's the thing. The last 2 years, both Buechele and Ellinger have been hurt repeatedly, and it'd be horrible if he went down. But
you don't wish for that or anything like it. But the reality is, I don't know that you can just base a transfer off of some guy never ever getting hurt and him beating you out, probably outright in practice right now.
But also, I'm wondering if he announced it. Herman is playing a long game, thinking, hey, maybe Rising or the other freshman I can't think of right now is playing well enough that it doesn't really matter, if he does or not. In the spring game, both the freshmen look pretty good, so who knows what he's thinking. But I think Buechele hurt his arm a couple years ago and has never really gotten back to where he was from when I remember from the spring game when he was a early entry freshman and just zinging the ball all over the place.
It was a cannon.
Yeah, and now it just doesn't seem like he has. It just seems more like Case McCoy than the way he was as a freshman.
Oh, good old noodle arm.
Yeah. So, all right. So, what do you think about this whole Urban Meyer thing? You think he's going to get fired?
I think that the people from Ohio, and I know there are some listeners here that live in the fucking horrible state of Ohio. I wouldn't put it past them to just give him a pass and let him stay. To be honest, I think that the Buckeyes are very into winning, and Urban Meyer is a winner. And I don't know. I think they may just give this guy a pass. If they would have made the decision to fire him, I think they would have just pulled the trigger, ripped the Band-Aid off, and just done it by now.
Yeah, that's kind of my feeling. That the longer it drags out, the more likely it is that they keep him, that they're just building up their excuses and getting ready to face the onslaught. But, a couple of people on that committee are, pretty big anti-women's, abuse people, and they're I don't know if they're going to put up with it. And I know there are a
I
lot
mean,
of people.
do you know anybody who is for women's abuse, Black
No,
Lab?
but I mean, actually donate to causes and run the biggest, abuse thing in Columbus.
I guess maybe Urban Meyer is for abuse.
Well, as
I
long as
mean,
the guy
that's what it
recruits
seems
well,
like.
as long as the guy
That's what it
recruits
seems like.
well, and he's the grandson of your hero, it's perfectly acceptable. It sounds like. But what do you think about all this? The thing that came out this last couple of days, he's ordering cock rings and dick pics at the White House, and I mean, it just seems like that was more slanderous stuff to put up. But I don't think that really affects anything anyway.
I don't know. I think people are just really getting concerned that Ohio State hasn't pulled the trigger on firing him, and he's on paid administrative leave, not unpaid. The whole thing smells like shit,
Yeah,
if I'm being honest.
yeah. I'll be really surprised if they fire him, but who knows? There was an interesting post from a poster on a Ohio State board that had almost 20,000 posts that said he was gone, and I don't know how much to put into that, but you think about the
I
message.
mean, we had a Charlie Strong is gone thread.
Well, I
And that,
know.
that thread was strong for
Yeah.
many years until
Well,
that happened.
but we didn't have 20,000 posters posting that, hey, I heard from my buddy that he's gone and stating their reputation on it. So, because that guy's going to be roasted at that board, but who knows? So,
All I know is my wife is a huge, huge Michigan fan, and her family is all from Ann Arbor, and they will take a win against Ohio State during a drought,
yeah,
even if it means that their coach got fired right before the season starts. They'll take the win where they can get one.
yeah. Well, first of all, there's one thing: Ann Arbor is a whore, which I want to make sure you understand. And then, second of all, yeah, they really need to beat them occasionally. I have a cousin who went to Michigan, so I'm somewhat Michigan fan. Definitely more than Ohio State fan especially after that 2005 trip to Columbus. Oh my God, it was like going to Vietnam or something. That place was unreal after the game, burning couches and everything. Felt like a war zone. So, did you go to the game?
I did not go to that game.
Okay.
I did go to the Michigan Ohio State game last year at the Big House,
Oh, okay.
and that was they tried to be as classy as they could, I think, when they were there, and it was very obvious that they, with their three teeth, are incapable
Yeah,
of any type of class.
yeah. Well, I know this. The funny thing. The other is just the difference between the Michigan and Ohio State fans. Not only in Columbus, but then we played them in the Fiesta Bowl in 2008, and that was. I mean, the fans there were a bunch of jorts wearing, mustache.
Oh, Text Dude 2007, throw out to some of you who may know that name. He told me all about how horrible that game was in the stands.
Yeah, I
How
mean,
many almost fights there were, how much everybody was just talking shit, and how everybody that was a Texas fan was really just trying to hold their shit together from knocking people's teeth out.
yep. And then you compare that to 2004 Michigan Rose Bowl, and everybody was shaking hands and being nice and saying it's about time we played. And Michigan's. I mean, I think it would be kind of the OU is Ohio State and Michigan is Texas. Would be the comparison I'd make. That Ohio or Oklahoma doesn't really have a sports team other than the basketball, so everybody in the trailer park roots for OU. And it seemed kind of the same thing with Ohio, that the Bengals and the Browns suck, so their football is all based off of Ohio State. So all the trailer parkers come out of the woodwork to root for Ohio State. Where Michigan seems more people actually went to Michigan that root for them more than somebody from Detroit or something.
Yeah, this is true. So, speaking of college football rivalries,
Yes,
what are your thoughts on the fact that Texas A&M and Texas have not played and still have no plans to play?
I'm fine with it. Those fuckers left. Fuck them. they took their ball and went home, and I think it would be a no win situation for us. We beat them, we're supposed to. If we lose, it sucks. So,
But what about Thanksgiving?
well, that
That's what I used to look forward to. As if
yeah,
people don't know, I am an Aggie,
yeah,
and every Thanksgiving it was great to get together with my friends in Austin, or my friends from Austin come to College Station, and we all go to the game. And that was, one of the cool traditions of me growing up. Was that game, and then
yeah.
now I've had to actually spend Thanksgiving with my family.
Yes, that was the number one excuse for me not coming home for Thanksgiving for the last 30 years or so that I've lived in Austin. And I mean, I still use it because even if we're playing Tech or TCU, it's still don't have to go home. But the I mean, there's so many funny things that over the years with the rivalry. When I was in college and going to UT, stayed here, went to a friend's house that lived here in Austin, and his sister went to A&M, and she brought a core turd home. So it was a Thanksgiving dinner with me and my buddy, and then another buddy of ours, and then his dad worked at UT and went to UT, and then his sister who was going to A&M, core turd going to A&M, and then his mom who went to A&M. And so the entire dinner was us cutting each other down and talking shit, and of course the core turds bragging about all the things about A&M, and he goes, yeah, we got a golf course on campus, and we got a ski slope on campus.
Did he talk about
And
how
then,
Reveille can see the fucking scores?
so he goes, oh, we got a ski slope on campus. So I go, now they're just waiting for it to snow. And me and my buddies and his dad were just dying laughing. And his mom's like, enough, stop, that's it, no more Texas or A&M shit, just stop. And you're ruining Thanksgiving dinner. And it was quite possibly the funniest thing. And I was, three of us or four of us were just laughing and snorting for like the next 30 minutes about it. And
I will have you know, Bob Black Lab, that I did, in fact, take snow skiing as one of my kinesiology credits when I was at A&M.
did you
It
wait
was good.
for it to snow? Did you have to wait?
What was that?
Did you have to wait for it to snow? So you never,
No. All it is actually it's just kind of a hill that has white, like astroturf type stuff, and then they just spray it down with water, and it's a lot like skiing on ice. And there's no lift system, and you got to walk all the way up the hill. It was not a very fun class.
Doesn't sound
I'll tell you that.
okay. Well, that's great. You want to jump over to our current favorite threads?
Yes,
Okay. Speaking of Aggies, you want me to go first? Or you want to go first?
you should go first.
Okay. So my current favorite thread is the thread in recruiting entitled Six Figs, Trust the Ham, Greatest Hits. So if you don't know do you know who Taylor Ham is?
I do not.
Okay, so Taylor Ham is this writer who used to write for 24/7 Sports. He posted on TexAgs for a long time. Took a job at 24/7 as a reporter. Garnered quite a reputation as a reporter there. He ended up getting their press pass removed for 24/7 by someone for being not a friend of the program. They ended up firing him, and then he went and started a Facebook site called The Other 98%. And they actually just started a website called The Other 98%. And of course, there's a alt-right website called The Other 98%. So that's really good marketing to get lumped in with those
It
guys.
seems great. I mean, it seems like it really fits in with the spirit of the university that they're going for.
Yes, exactly. So this guy, he's on TexAgs for a long time, and for a long time, well, he dated. So his nickname for over there for a long time was 30 Seconds, and people are like, oh, why'd you get that nickname? Why'd you get the nickname? Is because he went on a date with a fellow poster, and she said that he only lasted about 30 seconds. So that's how he got the nickname 30 Seconds. And then when he was at 24/7, he boasted about having a six-figure income. And so they just started calling him Six Figs.
A whole six figures.
Yes. Whole,
That's a lot. That's a lot of money.
yeah. So,
You know, I think there's a lot of people that would want to make six figures.
yeah. So the thread starts out with, some of the stuff from the old site. He had a prediction about 11 different recruits and where they were going to go, and he predicted, of course, all of them were going to come to A&M, and he went 0 for 11 on the.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's good. An offer. Goose eggs.
Pretty
Goose eggs are nice.
to get all 11 wrong, and then a couple later in the thread, then they have the posts from his Twitter account where he calls Malik Jefferson a boy. So, nice racist undertones from him. On page 8, he has a tweet that Chef Ham with the ribs, and he's got a picture of ribs that look absolutely darkened black, like burnt black. And so just kind of, it's like, I don't know what the hell this guy's deal is. Is he just completely out of touch with reality or what? It did lead to one of the funniest posts on the thread on page 44. Simpkins man, after Ham was caught in another lie, posts Chef Ham with the fibs, making a play on the words, which I thought was hilarious and laughed out loud when I saw that. But so the other thing that's funny about this thread, though, is this character named Karen. And Karen was a Florida State fan who was a big fan of the coach, what's his name, and ended up leaving Florida, moving to the Woodlands just to follow the coach from Florida to Texas A&M. So she shows up and just is just this wacky, weird thing, and so she just drops all these bombs and just puts her ovaries on the table, and just it's just bizarre. And of course, her and the Aggies start fighting over different things, and she defends Jimbo, through the rape stuff and all the other things, and it's just a big shit show, and it's just hilarious to see them fighting each other. On page 8 of the thread, Rush Hannigan, who is actually I think the owner of the Other 98, shows up and starts talking about.
What's the time frame on these posts?
Over the last 3 to 4 months, let's say.
Yeah. Okay.
It's been going for a while. Yeah. The posts from the thread started in March. And then the posts that I'm talking about right now happened on page 7 and 8, which is around May time frame. So this guy Rush Hannigan shows up, and let's see, what's his username? I think it's the Other 98, but shows up and starts defending Ham, which is just hilarious. And so he gets into it. Oh, Six Figs Handler is his name on the board. And he goes, and just shit show develops from him talking to posters, and then it just got weird. Then Karen posts about needing to set Ham up on a date, and everybody's like, "Isn't Ham married?" And it leads to the Shaggy Sleuths to figure out. They go look at his website.
The Shaggy
Sleuths.
Who are they?
They go look at his Twitter bio and how his Twitter bio changed from, blah, 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 and wife of, some Twitter handle to just blah, 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 blah. And then the reality website that he used, I guess he's a realtor of some sort. His wife is a realtor of some sort. Their website disappeared that had both of them on it. So everybody kind of figured out that, hey, they got divorced. And then, of course, people figured out their addresses and everything else. And so this whole thread just kind of blew up around page 22 or so with that, and did 4 or 5 pages in a couple days. So this whole thread is just something to behold. That goes from making fun of him to this weird Karen showing up to his boss showing up to him being divorced, and just it's something to be.
Man, how did I miss
I have to
this?
think about
Where have I been? I haven't been paying
I've seen
attention
people
to
out in
these
public and said,
threads.
"Hey, have you read the ham thread?" And they're like, "No, what's that?" And it's like, "Oh my God, you've missed internet gold." There's so much good stuff in there. So my advice: start at the beginning, just read through it. It's hilarious.
Yeah, you're making the thread that I picked look bad. I'm thinking about changing my
Okay,
pick here
well,
real quick.
your turn to pick now.
Yeah. So it is pretty funny that our threads are completely different. But my current go to thread every time I open Shaggy right now is definitely
That's a
the
good.
bourbon thread. For whatever reason, I love to drool and read about everybody's crazy finds at the liquor store. Um, and it's been a chronicle for a few websites now on what kind of scores people are getting from the stores that are completely unbelievable, that I know they're paying secondary prices, walking outside of a liquor store and taking these pictures because God damn it, nobody's pasting pictures of their receipts with these bottles that
Yeah.
they're saying that they're getting. And I just don't believe that you can go into a store at Twin Liquors and pick up a bottle of George T. Stagg. Not going to have me believe in that anytime soon. But it is pretty cool to see some of these guys that have a crazy, crazy selection of bourbon. A few months ago, there was a guy who, funny enough, in that thread, had posted that he just decided that he was going to buy this huge lot of bourbon. So he bought, so it was something crazy. It was several hundred bottles of bourbon. And he said, "Oh, well, I could just like keep the ones that I wanted and sell the rest on secondary and
Hmm.
kind of break even." And he kind of chronicled that throughout the thread, and just had like everybody just asking him for pours and all kinds of stuff. But one interesting post that just happened this week is from a poster called Bill from Lake Travis. And Bill from Lake Travis has quite a respectable bourbon collection. So much so that he's got it scheduled out for what bourbon he's going to be drinking for every game
That's
of the
dedication.
UT football season. So, yeah, starting with the Maryland game, he's going to get a Larceny personalized barrel. So he's just going to have those leftovers for Tulsa. Those are the only two that repeat. After that, USC, big game there. It's going to be a Weller Antique single barrel store pick. Then for TCU, busting out the classic, the original single barrel Blanton's. Then on to K State, got some Stag Junior. It's going to be decanted for 3 or 4 weeks. That's some fancy shit right there. OU, we've got the poor man's pappy going. For those of you who don't know what the poor man's pappy is, I suggest that you read the bourbon thread because there are several people who have tried different recipes and different ratios, but it is all Weller bourbon. So parts Weller 12 and parts Weller 107. And some people say it's 60-40, some say it's like 70-30. uh, you let it mingle for a bit, and then it supposedly tastes exactly like a
I
poor
did not.
man's pappy.
Have you had Pappy before?
So, yeah, I have not
I
had pappy before.
got
I
to
have had poor man's
kiss up
pappy.
to some of my richer friends and get over there and get some Pappy. That's
Yeah, maybe you do. I don't know. I've never had the desire to pay $100
yeah,
for a 2 ounce pour for
never.
some bourbon. I have had some opportunities to have it paid for, and there's always been much rarer stuff on the menu. And Pappy, for those of you who aren't big bourbon drinkers, is a great bourbon, from what I hear. But it is very expensive because it's the cool bourbon that everybody can find everywhere at every bar, but you can't really find it at the stores. It's almost everywhere that has bourbon at the bar, and that's why they just have secondary market prices for every
Yeah,
shot.
I've never actually seen it in a store
So,
once. Never once have I seen it in a store. So
no, I mean, I don't think people in
yeah, I think
Kentucky even see it in the store. There was a pretty funny story. I can't find the post, but it was in the bourbon thread. Some guy is now banned from the lottery, and so personally banned from the lottery, but also his restaurant is now banned from carrying any of the Pappies. And if they find out that he went and got them on the secondary market, they're pretty not happy about it because he ended up having a Pappy Jello shot party where he made Jello shots out of Pappy Van Winkle. Yeah, and they
so.
were not
How does it go
happy
with
about it. So they told him no more for you ever, and no more for your
and how
bar
does it
ever.
go well with Coke or
Oh, I'm sure that it goes extremely well
not Diet Coke,
with
regular
Diet
Coke,
Coke.
asshole? I think I'm
Just no, just Diet Coke, just mostly Coke, a little
go a
splash
long way.
of Pappy.
All right,
It's gonna be
well,
delightful.
that's good.
Moving on to the Baylor game, we've just got some Buffalo Trace on a personalized label. The Oklahoma State game, we've got some Sazerac Rye. West Virginia, Old Scout single barrel, starting to get into some cool stuff late season there. Tech, the Elijah Craig barrel proof 12 year. That is actually the whiskey of the year for this year. Um, Interesting that you're busting that out for Tech. I'd love to hear more, maybe in the thread, maybe in the podcast thread, on why you chose that
Well,
particular
I'm definitely
bourbon
going
for
to
the
find
Tech
this guy's
game.
tailgate. I think.
Um,
So
yeah. We need to.
I
Bill.
know
He lives in
it's
Lake
pretty close
Travis
to me,
because he's Bill
so
from
we're not too
Lake
far
Travis.
away.
So we gotta.
But yeah,
Yeah,
near
we're not
you.
too far away.
So what's the difference between rye and bourbon, Rick?
So the difference between rye and bourbon is how they do it in the mash. So to be a true bourbon, it has to be made firstly in America, and then it has to be in new white American oak. You can char it however you want, but it has to stay in that barrel at least 2 years. The mash has to be at least 51% corn. Then, other than that, you can get creative and do whatever you want. That is a bourbon. Anything that is not that, so if you dip below the 51% on the corn, you age it in similar barrels, everything else stays the same, still not a bourbon. A lot of people really like the flavor and the spice that comes off of a rye. And oftentimes in a rye mash bill or mash, you'll have just enough rye to kind of teeter it over the top there, and still have that sweetness from the corn.
Cool. Well, we're running up against our not really self-imposed time limit, but we're up to getting close to 30 minutes. You want to skip the funny stories from the past and just go to the raffle tickets and wrap this up?
I do want to say, funny story from the past. We don't have to talk too much about it, but uh, one of the funniest things that ever happened with this community is from a guy that some of you may know named Durka. So Durka came to a strip club event that we're probably going to have to put on another strip club event here in the next couple months. We'll see how the football season goes. But Durka only got one beer during the tab being open, and Durka threw a fit, not only in person, but on a message board.
And who limited them to one beer?
And that, I don't know. I don't know who even who even bitches about the one beer that you got for free at the titty bar?
But what?
But that guy,
No.
he's not a friend of the program.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. I'm sure he still wants to kill me. That's okay. So, did you randomize everything up?
I have a randomizer here, and we had 199 brave souls put in for this. So we're going to sort the spreadsheet by random, and the row number is going to end up being what I pick from, and I'm going to use the Google random generator. And drum roll, please. 141. Lucky poster 141. Who do we have here? It
All right,
is Dutch.
congratulations.
The poster Dutch. It's an old school
See the one
poster.
with Morty
Been around a
on
while.
his.
A little bit about Dutch. Still no avatar. He does have 90 posts on Surly after joining on March 25th. His last activity was right before we recorded this podcast about 30 minutes ago. So, his interests include butcher shops and meat markets, beef ribs, and uniform
about
porn.
the meat.
So,
It's not a bad
all
thing.
about the meat. I hope that that he enjoys these tickets. We're gonna be doing these after every podcast. It's gonna be how we round out every one of these podcasts, and they're gonna be 2 seats. And what we'll be doing is getting the best available seats for about what face value tickets on the lower end or the lower level cost on StubHub. Notoriously, the Longhorn market crashes pretty much the week before, so those should be some pretty good tickets. We're going to guarantee lower level. None of that nosebleed shit for Surly.
All right, I'm back. Let's wrap this up. Thanks for hosting, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks, Black Lab.